Okay. So this guy, his name's John. He's let's just say he's having some trouble with his wife and making her, happy in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't know what's wrong. And so he goes to his doctor. And he goes, "Doc, I'm having some problems making my wife happy in the bedroom." The doctor goes, "Well, I know what your problem is. It's too warm in there. That's a big issue. You've gotta cool her down. She's overheating. You gotta like turn the AC up." John realizes, "Oh man, I don't even have AC. That's been the problem this whole time." So he calls up his friend Steve and goes, "Steve, I need you to do me a favor. I'm gotta go sleep with my wife and she's too warm. I need you to wave a blanket at me really, really hard while we're doing the deed. And that way she'll cool off. Everything will be better." Over Steve, and he's doing the thing, and Steve is blowing the stuff, and everything is happening. It's in 35 minutes, and the wife is still unhappy. And he goes, "Steve, that's not how you blow a blanket. Switch me." So Steve's like, "Fine." So John starts wafting the blanket on his wife, and Steve, sleeping with John's wife. Not even a full minute passes, and let's just say his wife is completely happy, and John goes, "There you go, Steve. That's how you blow a blanket." And Steve said, "You're right, of course. My apologies."
Absolutely, yes. I'll do better next time. Or maybe you could demonstrate for me again, Sir John.
You'll have to demonstrate for me again later. I gotta figure it out. The baby's screaming. I heard that yesterday and it made me very happy.
The baby screaming?
Yeah.
All right. Well. Tyler.
Sean.
Good morning.
Unfortunately, I sound much happier than you do today.
It's a vile day.
It's a horrible day. Now don't be that way.
Honestly, I don't...
for a wedding. Sorry, I'm off on the sidetrack.
See, I don't know why I got up so early. I don't have to get up until like 5:30 or 5:45 or whatever. I still get up at 5. I don't know why I do this to myself. I don't get to bed till like 11.
It's worth mentioning that 5 your time is 6 my time. And so we start at 7 my time, which is 6 your time. Now I wake up at 6:30 my time, which is 5:30 your time. And I don't know. I feel great.
And somehow, even though, okay, so the high here is higher than the high there, but the current temperature, it's colder here. How's that even work?
Well, my assumption is that there's going to be a large shift in temperature.
Probably. I
can't guarantee this is the case, but it feels right to me.
Yeah, here it's going to be 40 today, but it's 25 right now. Over there it's 26, but the high is 28.
We don't like change much here. Oh my God. Home haven't changed since the 30s.
So, I think I may know the answer, or potential lack thereof, once, no, not once, having heard an infant. But I suppose I must pop the question anyway. What are you drinking?
So here's the thing. I did this kind of to annoy you. And I think it's going to work. So, we recently discovered these things. I like them a lot, and you're going to be mad at me, but just bear with me.
You're drinking a wine cooler.
Almost. I think we can both agree, without having to even have a discussion, that seltzers are trash.
I mean,
For the most part, they taste bad.
There's some really good ones. White Claw's trash, but
White Claw trash. There's a bunch that are trash. I've tried random ones throughout the past couple years. Most of them just don't taste good.
I'm gonna link in the show notes to a video by How to Drink, talking about the hard seltzers, and he mentioned some of them that are really good.
Well, what I am drinking right now, it is from Bud Light, which automatically should make you a little mad. They have their own seltzer that is labeled hard soda. They have a Coke, a cherry Coke, an orange, and a citrus, which is essentially Sprite. They taste better than the actual soda, and it's phenomenal. I'm having the Sprite one. It's great. It's tasty. I didn't even want one this morning. I was just hoping it would make it bad, and it didn't, and now I'm kind of disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like the only thing that is upsetting about it is the fact that it is Bud Light branded, but I get it. You know, you live in a town where it's very difficult to get anything with any sort of regularity, other than from a store, and the stores probably won't have fantastic things. So, you know, like
very regular.
That's good, but no, you can't. You know, we can't all live 20 minutes away from Tulsa.
Thank God. Imagine how many people would be in one spot.
Yeah, I know. It was kind of sucky. Actually, I made the joke. I actually have not. I don't think I've ever made a trip to Tulsa because I could acquire something there that I couldn't here.
Every time I go to Tulsa, it's because... Nope, never been in Tulsa.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I don't know if you've been to Oklahoma or not, ever. I don't think you have. But, like, there's actually a lot to do here. So many places to go to and see. Like, there's Tulsa. There's Oklahoma City. There's Tulsa. No, actually, up in Arcadia, it's a little town about 2 hours away here. There's a shop called Pops, and I've never been there, but Brooke keeps wanting me to go there. But we're gonna have to get a time we can actually make an almost 2-hour trip just to go to one little store.
Oof.
It's the size of like your typical convenience store.
Okay.
And they sell nothing but pop, like yeah, like the exotic pops and stuff. And it's like covering every wall, the middle aisles and stuff. It's fantastic. It seems fantastic.
So I think that I can see the situation you're in, because that sounds super cool. That'd be a really fun thing to do. 2 hours to go to a place to buy pop is kind of like, ugh.
It may not be quite 2 hours. I know it's over an hour. Let me look it up real fast. How far to Arcadia?
How far to Arcadia?
Okay, so going to Arcadia... No, it's over 2 hours. 2 hours, 19 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Okay, so it would have been less than 2 hours the last time I looked it up.
You were 30 minutes closer?
Yeah, because I haven't looked it up since we moved to the town we're in now. Where we were at was closer to Tulsa. But it's right... I guess it's right by Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma.
Okay, so you think about, we grew up thinking of Tulsa as like a big town. Like, oh, Tulsa, Oklahoma, that's a big town, you know? And then Oklahoma City, that's got to be a big town, which, by the way, Oklahoma City is significantly larger than Tulsa. Let's compare these cities to a city that you and I are both intimately familiar with, Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
If Indianapolis had 150,000 more people, it would be the size of Tulsa and Oklahoma City combined.
No.
The two of them together just barely have 1 million people in the two of them together.
That's strange. I guess it's not really shocking, though, because Indy is such kind of it's more of an epicenter of the Midwest than anything in Oklahoma would have been.
Mm-hmm. Well,
that makes sense.
The funny thing is I would expect Claremore, the town that I'm in, to be... Oh, no, now you guys know where I live. to be more popular than either of the other two cities, to a small extent, just because Route 66 goes straight through it.
On Route 6. I don't know why I'm so singing this morning. Well, you also doxed yourself, so congratulations, idiot.
Yeah. Oh no.
Now they know which city you live in. They're gonna find you in a matter of months.
And they're gonna knock on the door. It's not gonna answer.
We're diverting so aggressively and in the most boring way of all time. We should we should get on track.
Oh yeah. So what I'm drinking is. Same I have been for the last couple weeks, and it's not going to change for the next several because I got almost 2 liters of it.
Good Lord.
Evan Williams.
Evan Williams.
Bottled in bond. It's very good. I like it. It's like, I mean, I wouldn't call it like a premium drink, but I like it.
I would call anything a premium drink if you paid for it.
Well, I mean, I paid like $27 for a 1.75 liter.
You know, considering the amount of effort it would take, I would charge at least that much money for a bottle of my own pee of that size. Let's just be honest. It's a lot of effort to fill up 2 liters of pee. Yeah. But I mean, like, that's so cheap.
Yeah, I know. It's
even
fantastic.
Remotely drinkable. That's ridiculously cheap.
And it's like 76% better than your pee.
You don't know what percent of pee mine is good. Moving on.
Okay. I believe the topic that we're talking about today, I sure hope the topic that we're talking about today is an overview of one of our favorite a story by one of our favorite authors, a young man by the name of Howard Phillips Lovecraft.
Lovecraft, yes. So Shadow. Oops, sorry. I was looking over my shoulder at something else. Dreams in the Witch House.
It's actually really funny that you started to say Shadow, because in my book, the story right behind Dreams in the Witch House is Shadow over Innsmouth.
Shadow over Innsmouth. That's
the same book.
I had a feeling that was going to happen. This is in my top 3 from him. Before we go into the overview, I would say there's something about this particular point of view, because a lot of them are from, you know, like you're being narrated a particular person's point of view, or you are in the shoes of the individual themselves for the majority, nearly all, if not all, of Lovecraft stories. This particular point of view we get is one of the most interesting to me because it's you're not in the shoes of someone particularly special, because if you think about a lot of the people that he deals with are those kind of being like that sort of Oxford scholar character, you know, or just an absolute scholar. So we have a lot of times we're in the shoes of old men who are incredibly wizened. We have the character, we have our, what's his name, whose name I've forgotten because I'm tired, Call of Cthulhu, Mountains of Madness. We're usually in the shoes of someone extremely educated, usually a little bit older, useful to the world in some way, have done something great, or whatever. This time we get the perspective of someone who's, I mean, technically still a student. Not that they're not smart, but they're still a student.
Not yet fully educated.
Yeah, and they're not anything special in any way. And basically we get to be along for the entirety of the ride, from perfectly normal to completely mad. And then eventually death, obviously. And I think it's, for me, this story, I think it makes it a little bit more, it makes it a little more relatable in some ways. So I think this story does maybe...
Tyler?
World. Yes, Sean.
Okay, I just making sure you're still there. You said, I think this, here's what I heard. I think this story does maybe blank world. Does me.
I'll rephrase and that can be cut out or whatever you like. I think this story does possibly the best job of firmly seeding Lovecraft's mythos into our world, like our actual world. It makes you feel like it's it makes it feel the realest to me. I mean, there's other stories that do a great job. Mountains of Madness does a great job of immersion, but in that kind of slow, dredgy sort of way. And this is just like all action from beginning to end, or all suspense, I should say, from beginning to end.
Yeah. So man, there's so much that I like about the old works and the newer works. This, of course, being among the newer works.
Yes.
The old works, very much like strongly involved magic, and they're very canon. The newer works show how really all the magic is just a deeper understanding of science than what we previously had.
Yes.
Math and science. But then like some of the random incantations, like what you would see in Charles Dexter Ward. Some of those incantations don't make any sense when you look at it from the it's just math and science perspective. But they're both canon, and so I have a hard time resolving those things, and I don't know which I like better. But I mean, as far as which concepts I like better, I tend to like some of the newer works. I tend to like, for the most part, a little better. Because he had more experience, he was, he'd evolved as a writer, and he was doing better by the end.
You have the perfect mirror in what you were just saying, is Mountains of Madness versus the horror at Red Hook. Like they're the perfect mirror of each other as far as scale of story. One being full blown nothing but magic, and the other one being full blown nothing but science.
Yeah.
And then the shadows in the Witch House falls right in the middle for me.
Yeah, I'm big fan. And that I think there's an argument to be had here, where it's this: it is magic, and it's just Nyarlathotep screwing with people. It's his magic. And it's him, like, giving different people different ways of doing it, and he's just the one. Oh yeah, you do this, but he's just somehow the people have done something. They signed the Black Book, and that gives them access to his magic. And now he's like, yeah, no, you have to write these signs. And this is the person you say, oh yeah, just speak gibberish. Yeah, yeah, whatever.
I agree with you a little bit, because there is an argument to be made, but I would say, the reason why I find it sitting in between the two, because I still stand by the black man being Nyarlathotep. I mean, like,
absolutely.
If you look at any synopsis or anything, they're just like, there's no real identification for the black man. Like, yes, there is. It's Nyarlathotep. Like, that's who it is. That's, for me, that's what I'm going to believe until I die, and I don't care what anyone says. But this person would have never discovered any of this stuff without his obsession with non-Euclidean physics. I'm sorry, non-Euclidean mathematics. I'm trying to say two things at once. And in the study of the weird physics that it's actually in the room that Keziah Mason stays in. So, like, he never would have had access to this magic had it not been for the obsession with non-Euclidean mathematics, which is crazy. And the book actually dives in. There's a few spots where the book actually talks about some of the conversations that they have in the classroom regarding the weirder stuff of non-Euclidean mathematics, which is super cool. So that's the reason why I think this one kind of sits dead in the middle. It is all obviously Nyarlathotep magic, obviously, but I mean the links of which he goes to show how the angles of this thing are important and the mathematics of this thing are important, and then proves it by saying basically his access to that is being inside of the room that has all the weird angles. That's just super cool. I think that this is the story that immersed me so deeply, so quickly. Not more than any of them necessarily, but in the coolest way. I thought it was really cool because you're following a nobody. Your character, you actually have like a cast around him that's kind of diverse and interesting. And when I say diverse, shut up, everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you have very, very different characters. They're shockingly different. And like, you remember all of them. Like, you remember them all having their own little weird quirks, which is strange for Lovecraft. It's not really his thing.
Yeah.
Is having characters in this way, and it's just cool. It's different than the rest of the stories in a lot of ways, and I don't know. It's top 3 for me. Easy.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I just have to throw this out there too, because the 3 main people who are around him that do the most interacting with him that are by name. They're all 3 white men. Also, and of course that's not counting Keziah, because I'm talking about the normal people around him. Yeah. The 3 normal people that are around him. Like, I just have to throw this out there. It is genuine diversity. There's like, what? That's all. They're all white men. Oh, check this out. You have a man from New England, a typical American guy. You have a Polish Catholic. I forget his name. I just read this last night. I forget his name. Yes. I remember his name was Joe, but yeah. And then you have the French Canadian Dercher. And like those are like that is genuine diversity. Do you have any idea how different those 3 people have to be?
Yeah.
A French Canadian, a Polak, and can I say Polak? A Polish, so. And a Canadian, a Polish, and a New England fellow.
Yeah. So when I said diversity, I meant it in the truest sense of the word. 3 completely, shockingly different people. Mm-hmm. And it's great because he doesn't do that. I mean, you don't see a lot of Lovecraft stuff where you have genuine characters who you actually get to feel some of their personality, and you get to like see a little bit of them as a character. I mean, we don't dive into it deeply. We don't have time for that in a story this short. But I don't know. It's different for him. It's not what he normally does, and yeah, I think it's fantastic for it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're referencing something you said earlier. This is just on like within the first 2 pages. This splits the first 2 pages. This, for in my book anyway. These 2 sentences do. This is going back in reference to what you said. This story bridges that gap between the mathematical science side and the more fantastic magic side. Mm-hmm. I'm going to read you 2 sentences from the book here. And you will say this constitutes an affirmation, and you may be right.
Okay.
Possibly Gilman ought not to have studied so hard. Non-Euclidean calculus and quantum physics are enough to stretch any brain, and when one mixes them with folklore and tries to trace a strange background of multidimensional reality behind the ghoulish hints of the Gothic tales and wild whispers of the chimney corner, one can hardly expect to be wholly free from mental tension.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
He's right, you know.
Mm-hmm. It says right there, when you're studying advanced math and folklore, you get this.
This is what happens, kids. You go insane and get eaten by a rat.
Yeah. And we'll go more on the eating on the rat later, because I have my own ideas about that. But so I didn't listen very well the first time I heard this on audiobook, and I didn't get oh yeah, and I didn't catch the nuance of Sean Branney's reading here, which, by the way, I almost felt bad reading that out loud because I'm not Sean Branney, but
yeah, he's so good.
Mm-hmm. Andrew Lehman is you're okay, but you're no Sean Branney.
I'll take them both, but yes.
But I always thought of Brown Jenkin as being white, and not because obviously it sounds stupid. His name is Brown Jenkin. Why should he be white? It's because of this line right here in the book. It says, "A small white-fanged furry thing." I heard that as a small, white, fanged, furry thing.
This is fair.
Mm-hmm. And then hearing that, it immediately made me think of like a dream creature, an imaginary enemy that my wife had when she was a small child. And that was a white rat that would cruise the halls, and if it came into your room, it could kill you. And
shadowing.
Say what?
We call that foreshadowing.
Yeah, exactly. No, so, Tyler,
Sean.
usually I do a ridiculously short synopsis of whatever we're going over. Would you care to do the honors today?
Am I making it ridiculously short and ridiculous?
Yes, ridiculously short and ridiculous. Make it so incredibly boring that it's comical.
Okay, so Walter Gilman studies a lot of things and reads a lot of books with a lot of ridiculous names and makes him obsessed with some random lady, which, by the way, gay. He just decides he has to live in her room that she used to live in because the walls are terrible. Once he gets there to the terrible walls, he realizes the terrible walls drive him insane. Can't relate. He goes to school, can't go to school anymore very well. He does school real bad because of the walls. Finds out he does a lot of crazy things like sleepwalking and sleep talking, but he doesn't know where to. And he finally finds out it's because that lady who has the terrible walls has come to him in his dreams, which are actually real dreams and real life and real things. And then when he goes to the places, he meets a guy who's black. He's actually the black guy. Literally. While he's there, he signs a thing, he grabs some stuff. The stuff comes back in the real world, confuses him to death, and then he realizes that's absolutely crazy. He looks at the sky because the sky is pulling him to places. He walks those places, he sees things in those places that are super spoopy, goes insane because of how spoopy it is, then a rat eats him. What a douche.
Mm-hmm. And many less interesting things happened along the way.
Much.
I also love in your synopsis that you referred to Nyarlathotep as the black guy.
We have a black guy.
Then I'm a black guy.
But seriously, he is the black man referred to in this, and it is never explicitly said that the black man in the book is Nyarlathotep, but it is. Partially because we get to actually see, for a glimpse in the book, the black man is in our world apart from Walter Gilman's dream, the night that Walter Gilman goes insane, which is super cool, which does fall in line with Nyarlathotep because we know him to be in our world running around corporeally, as it were. And he is actually doing things because, you know, he was one of the pharaohs and Tesla and all of that.
And Sauron. Don't forget.
Of course, Sauron. How could I forget Sauron?
And Stan. Oh, my bad. Satan. Oh.
Dan.
Oh man, there was something. Oh, there's something in here that's mentioned. And I wanted to mention this. There's a spell in Dungeons and Dragons called Fairy Fire. And it's very interesting. It bears a great, to me, resemblance to the Witchlight. Because it said, like, the Witchlight, the first time that Gilman saw, which, by the way, the Gilman house, isn't that the name of the inn in Innsmouth?
It is.
Yeah, so I wonder if Gilman isn't connected to that somehow, because he did mention he felt a strange draw towards Innsmouth at one point. So there we go.
The way he connects people randomly, doesn't necessarily talk about it explicitly sometimes, would make me think that's probably the case in some way.
Yeah. But that's fantastic. But yeah, the is when he sees the Witchlight, he at various points, like the Witchlight is there and there are particles in it, and then like he can start to see the shape of the woman in the particles, and it really makes me think of, and I know this book came first, so I wonder if there was inspiration to this story in the spell Fairy Fire in Dungeons and Dragons. The spell Fairy Fire, I don't have I don't know where my dungeon books are, so I can't actually read the description of the spell right now, but I'll tell you what it does. It sends out a violet light and a bunch of violet particles in an area, and if there are any invisible creatures in that area, any creatures in that area, the particles will stick to them and they really, really stick out. You can really start to see the creature in there, so much so that it gives you advantage on attacks against them because you can see them so well. And you and it even sticks to invisible creatures, so it still gives you the advantage against them, and you lose the disadvantage that you have against fighting invisible creatures, because not only can you see them now, but you can see them so well that you have advantage. And so now you'd see this, you couldn't see anything, and then here's this violet light, violet particles, and you can see the shape of the invisible thing in there. And that like when I had never thought that until this time reading it, and like that man, the way she's like coalescing in the witch light, that really makes me think of fairy fire.
That's fair.
Probably fire.
There's a lot of Lovecraft inspiration in tabletop gaming, quite a lot. So it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah. And I know that Dungeons and Dragons does take inspiration from Lovecraft. Just because one of the warlock pacts you can get is not one of the pacts, one of the patrons you can get as a warlock is the Great Old One.
Aha.
So,
pretty aggressively obvious.
Yeah.
So there's one thing I had to talk about for this. This is one of the three. Three. I'm not googling it. I'm trying to remember. 3 times that my favorite name for a book of all time is mentioned, because there's a couple books that it mentions that Walter Gilman reads that helps him go insane. There's the Necronomicon, obviously that's in there. It's in most of them. The Book of Eidbon, which is fun, and then my favorite is the Unaspreklichen Kulten. That's great.
Yes. Unaspreklichen Kulten.
It's what I like. I actually did research today. I don't normally. I did today. Because I wanted to know more about. I mean, obviously it's a fictional book, but I looked it up. So apparently, this book pops up in other things, even outside of the mythos, which is great.
Yes, because it's not the Book of Eidbon. It isn't from the mythos. Lovecraft borrowed it from one of his friends.
The Colton.
Oh, the Colton. Same thing. Same thing. Yep. He borrowed it from one of it. So yeah, so it wouldn't be. It's like, so it's not from the mythos originally. Lovecraft borrowed it.
Yeah, but I love that.
That's fantastic.
In other places, it's crazy to see, like, because I think that's that part of the immersion is what really gets me, because like I'll be reading a different story or doing a different thing, and then you see that thing pop up, you're like, crap, it is real, even though the other thing's fictional too. But still.
Yeah. So interesting thing about I meant to say this earlier and I forgot. Dreams in the Witch House. Lovecraft did not like it very well. He didn't think it was very good.
Ugh.
He didn't think it was a fantastic book. And there's another book that Lovecraft didn't really like very much at all either, and that was The Thing on the Doorstep, which I think that's the one that we already talked about. Was that the one we talked about? No, we didn't talk about Thing on the Doorstep. We talked about
Whispers in Darkness.
Yeah, Whisper in Darkness. But it was one of those two books, and I can't remember, but I think it was this one. Lovecraft, he didn't really like it, and he was kind of feeling down about it. So he sent it to Derleth to see it, like, to ask his opinion of it. And he said, "Hey, my good dear buddy August, what do you think of this book?" And he said, "What do you think of this book? Because I don't think it's very good." And Derleth reads it and says, "Yeah, you're right. It's not very good." and Lovecraft goes, "Yeah, I knew it. So I knew this wouldn't sell." And Derleth says, "No, you misunderstand. I believe his quote was, the story is infinitely saleable. It just isn't good."
It's very different from both of them. If you think about it, it's wildly different than something either of them would put out. And so I get why both of them would think that, because I mean that stands as a different style of storytelling from either of them, really. Yeah. I mean, not like, I mean, obviously in a basic way, it's the same. It's the same kind of plot. It's the same kind of ending. It's the same kind of beginning. There's not very forbidden knowledge, goes and gets more forbidden knowledge and goes insane from forbidden knowledge, and then something happens at the end after the big like reveal. It's like, and then this thing happened that made it all seem real or even more. I mean, it's all the same thing, but his approach to this story is just it's very, very different for him. But I'm glad he did it because, again, it's one of my favorites just because it's a different take.
Yeah, fantastic. What's that? One of the character that only appears in this book, a very, very interesting character, is Brown Jenkin.
Yes.
And there are theories about Brown Jenkin. That he's like, something to do with something. He's obviously associated with Nyarlathotep.
Yes.
Yeah. And there are many, many, many things that that say what the origin of Brown Jenkin is, and there's no real clue into the origin of what Brown Jenkin is, and there are many people, and I'm inclined to agree, that say it is Brown Jenkin, not Keziah, who's in charge. And the reason why I'm inclined to agree about that is I think Brown Jenkin is why he is a rat or a rat-like creature. I don't know, and that could be that could be probably. My guess is it's a practical joke, courtesy of Nyarlathotep. If I'd take a guess, yeah, but there's a running theory, and then the running theory that I read, it stops at this point, and I want to expound further on it. In my opinion, the running theory is that Brown Jenkin was a wizard, and he found Keziah in the form of Brown Jenkin found Keziah and taught her all the magics, and brought her to Nyarlathotep and blah 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 blah. And I agree with that theory, but I want to expound on that further. I don't think he is a wizard. I think he is a line of wizards. The most recent one of which being Keziah, the most recent and final one, because Brown Jenkin does die in this story, being Keziah. And the reason why I think that is because it's mentioned as having the face of a human, and it's kind of implied that it's a man's face because they talk about being bearded and all that. So you think of it being a man's face, but then in exchange for all that, Keziah feeds her blood to Brown Jenkin. That is what that's how Brown Jenkin is sustained is on the blood of, and at some point too, I'm assuming children, because where Brown Jenkin seems to live is in the room with the bones of all the children. So I'm going to assume he eats the children that they sacrifice. That just makes sense to me. But I am that just makes sense to me that he eats the children. But that was how he is technically sustained, is on the blood of Keziah Mason. And then towards the end of the story, so after having hundreds of years of surviving off of Keziah Mason, it mentions that the face of Brown Jenkin bears a striking resemblance to that of Keziah Mason. Old Keziah's face can be seen in the face of Brown Jenkin, which I assume is meaning that as he spends hundreds of years feeding off the blood of his current wizard, eventually the life force and soul essence through the blood that he's eating goes into him, until eventually he is now, like, his visage is now that of, and therefore his soul is that of that wizard. And then he finds a new wizard to lead to Nyarlathotep. Once he is the old wizard, he then goes and finds a new wizard, and it's a constant line of wizardry.
I mean, okay.
That's my theory. Game theory.
I have no reason to, or no way to discredit that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never really thought about it. I'm still kind of absorbing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought so too.
That's the kind of thing he would do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as far as him being a rat, I just think that's one of Nyarlathotep's practical jokes.
Which is kind of spot on for that character.
Yeah, I can just see Nyarlathotep sitting around with his father. It's Azathoth or Yog-Sothoth is the father of Nyarlathotep. I don't remember. I think Azathoth. I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, by the way, if Azathoth is the father of Nyarlathotep, that means Nyarlathotep is Wilbur Whately's uncle, and
Yes.
Wilbur Whately is Cthulhu's uncle.
Which is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, but I keep saying Whately. I want to say Wait, and that's a different family. But
Quick correction.
Yeah.
Correction. I did Google it. I actually, I Googled Nyarlathotep's dad. And it's actually Azathoth.
It is I said Azathoth. Yeah, not Yog-Sothoth. Azathoth.
So,
yeah.
Azathoth would make them cousins, whereas Yog-Sothoth would make them uncles.
Okay, so I thought Yog-Sothoth was the son of Azathoth.
No. Hold on.
Let me pull up the family tree here.
That's what I'm looking for.
Great old one family tree. There we go. Okay, so pulling this up here, we have, of course, Azathoth is the be-all, end-all. He's the beginning of everything.
The blind idiot god.
Yeah. Yog-Sothoth is the son of the nameless mist, who is the offspring of Azathoth.
So if you have Azathoth as the blind idiot god being the main one, so Nyarlathotep is
Nyarlathotep and Nyarlathotep, the nameless mist, and the darkness. The initial three beings, the three offspring of Azathoth. Yog-Sothoth, Yog-Sothoth is the offspring of the nameless mist, and Shub-Niggurath is the offspring of the darkness. Yog-Sothoth and Shub-Niggurath procreated to make Nug, and and Cthulhu is the offspring of Nug. So Yog-Sothoth is the grandfather of Cthulhu and the grandson of Azathoth. Nyarlathotep is Yog-Sothoth's uncle, and Cthulhu is Yog-Sothoth's grandchild.
I'm finding a few things that are a little bit different than that, which is annoying. Because I could find a family tree that was a little more concise. Hold on. Because the first one that I pull up is different than what you just said, and different than what I remember.
Okay, this is the family tree as I think I can trust this one. This is the one as compiled and put together by Clark Ashton Smith.
Ugh, and who the heck is that? Jeez.
Yeah, okay, because Lovecraft's family tree was incomplete, and Clark Ashton Smith kind of really brought it all together.
Yeah, so you have Azathoth, nameless Smith, Yog-Sothoth, Nug, Cthulhu, Sharsho, Yogash the Ghoul, Kabah the Serpent, and Lamer the more it goes down. So if you have, by that thing, so you have, let's find Yog. Where's Yog-Sothoth in here?
Yog-Sothoth, yeah, right below the nameless mist.
You have Yog-Sothoth, and then if that obviously branches off into all of our other, other beings, but you can take an offshoot of that. So who knows how many actual Yog-Sothoth offspring we actually have?
Because I know of several that are not actually on this list.
Right. So I mean, we can think of two from one story. So yeah, very interesting. So Yog-Sothoth is kind of like the Zeus of their mythos.
Yeah, basically.
Well, we're diverting. We need to get back on to
yeah. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So, I didn't know that Hoster was the offspring of Nug. That's fantastic.
Good for you, Nug.
But yeah, we have so it was just Yog-Sothoth and Shub-Niggurath and Nyarlathotep in there, and they're all sitting there kind of chuckling together. And let's say the wizard's name was Marshlal Hashbaz. We'll just throw that name out. And what happened was, they're sitting there, they're talking, and then Nyarlathotep gets in his radio and says, "All right, now Marshal al-Hashbaz, turn into a rat."
Now make it look like a rat.
But yeah,
those rat.
Yeah. There was another. Oh yeah. Also, his murder of Gilman. This is me. My personal opinion. I would like to opine on this matter, and I would like to say this. I don't think that Jenkin teleported under the covers and then ate into Gilman. I think that his teleportation, he used I think he was good enough at it. I think he teleported inside Gilman and ate his way out.
Which, by the way, is perfectly plausible within the confines of the story. And the way I mean, that makes perfect sense. That could be very doable.
And I don't know if that is true, but that's what I want to imagine.
Yeah, the Gilman kind of talks about that. They actually, I think he kind of put some foreshadowing for that being the case in earlier when we talk about Gilman's statement of saying, like, well, technically speaking, any third dimensional being should be able to step out of this dimension into the fourth dimension and back into the third dimension anywhere.
Yeah, it was like literally anywhere in time and space. Yeah.
So why not give him?
Yeah. But yeah, that's, what on earth is this? Oh, it's just a generic picture for genealogy. Okay. That's interesting. But yeah, that is, I have to say this, like, we didn't really, like, we talked about how much we like the story, talked about points of the story. We didn't really go over the story, and that's fair because, what is it? The HP Podcraft, right? They only do 30-minute podcasts, but you can tell from how the podcasts are edited, they cut out a bunch of what they say and only get to the more pertinent points. They have 30-minute episodes, and I think they did like 4 or 5 episodes on this story. So obviously there's several hours worth of stuff you can talk about for this, and so I don't think we're going to keep going too much. I think we're going to stick with our normal time and not go too much further. But there's another thing that I wanted to say about this, and that is, reading about Ladislas in this book, this story. Man, it's a completely different. You get a completely different outlook, because I was like reading I first heard this, listened to this story, before I had any children, and I read, and then hear about and obviously it kind of, and even then it kind of gets to you a little bit. You're like, oh man, Ladislas, that sucks. Reading and hearing that story again as a father, like, I have a son, and I have fully 100% determined, like, before, if I had a rat in my house, I would be I would be setting out rat traps and making sure I get that rat, because no one wants a rat in their house. Today, right now, having a child, if a rat were to show up in my house, like, technically speaking, the official reason why I keep a buckshot loaded shotgun next to my bed is against any human intruder. That would be the tool I would use against any rat that I happen to see in my house at this point. Just saying.
On rats in the house around the babies.
But yeah, that's that.
I think if you're listening to this, I don't think us going deeply into the story is important. I think that if you're going to get anything out of this, you're going to have to read it for yourself. Do that first if you want, or if you want, just read it.
Hey, what did I say at the beginning of the show? What did I say I was going to link?
You were going to link an alcoholic beverage.
No.
You did.
I did?
did.
Yes. Yeah, the how to drink video. Okay.
Bite me.
Hey, buddy. Come see Daddy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's that. That's the Dreams in the Witch House. That is all that we're likely to say about that, I think, unless you're interested in saying another thing.
No, not about that thing. I think
Nothing. Okay.
the important things have been said, and the less important things, you'll figure them out on your own when you read the gosh darn book.
Mm-hmm. And if you haven't already read the story, I'd be very surprised. This may not be, if you're not the type of person who has already read books, this may not be the podcast for you. Just because we don't go over them nearly well enough for you to get anything out of this. We're just here to be stupid. Yeah, so like read the story, because guarantee you will be absolutely lost if you come in this without prior knowledge.
Absolutely. That was my goal, is to make you laugh during the stream.
Okay. It worked. Okay. But yeah, in that case, I believe we shall exit.
Shall we?
Yes. Tyler, before we leave, give us some dad advice.
Some dad advice?
Some dad advice.
Don't ever mow your